Did you know that Delfino Plaza has an unemployment rate of almost 23%? For the uninitiated, that's a really high unemployment rate. That's almost as high as the unemployment rate during the Great Depression. So what I want to know is, how come people in Delfino Plaza are so happy, but people during the Great Depression were so sad?
That's a great question.
Why doesn't Delfino Plaza seem to be experiencing any of the ill effects of a serious economic crisis, despite its high unemployment rate? Figuring this out is going to take some legwork, and it's...
Honestly, this video seems right up my alley. That's one of the best first 30 seconds to a funny video that I've ever seen for what I'm interested in. And I think this will be really funny, so I'm very excited.
It's going to require gathering a lot of data. But one important thing to note is that while Delfino Plaza is the biggest city on Isle Delfino, it's not the only location on the island. There are hotels, an amusement park, a fully functioning port, tons of places outside the main city where residents may live or work. So, in order to assess the economic...
Can I say how much I hated Super Mario Sunshine as a kid? I know it's a good game and it grew on me, but I was so disappointed to have every level be a beach. I know, capital E colon, I get it. It's not popular to say. But I really, as a huge Mario 64 addict as a kid, I just felt so let down. It felt like every level was kind of the same. And it's, you know, like Galaxy was a big return to form. I love the environment. I think I've grown to appreciate it. They had a certain thing in mind and they did it. But I didn't have any problem with Flood or anything like the normal critics. I was like, I really wanted like an ice level, you know? I wanted like an ice level and a water level, or sorry, and a fire level and a lava level. I wanted like more, I wanted more variety in the thing. Yeah, volcano and...
health of a place like Delfino Plaza, we need to not only take into account the situation there, but also what's happening in the surrounding community.
And more smut. You guys notice how like Mario 64 had plenty of smut. Mario Galaxy had plenty of smut. And then Sunshine right in the middle was like so Puritan. It was so... Mario barely fucked anything. That was like a real letdown for me as a fucking 11-year-old.
Communities like Pianta Village or Rico Harbor. We need to figure out why there's no one in Noki Bay. We need to figure out how many guests are staying in Hotel Delfino, and so much more, which means we have a lot of ground to cover. Let's stop wasting time and get started. Now, the first thing, and really the main thing we have to do, is get a sense of what the unemployment rate is in all of these different areas. Does anyone know what the best way to get a sense of the unemployment rate in a local area is? Anyone? Anyone have any ideas? That's right, we're doing a direct survey. What this means is that we're talking directly to anyone that resides in any of the communities or locales in Super Mario Sunshine, and using whatever information we can find out to determine if they're employed or unemployed. It sounds simple, but just let me demonstrate with our very first survey candidate. This guy's upset about graffiti. He says that this is his wall. Oh no, it looks kind of like a radio tower. So this is probably where the Debs alerts broadcast from. Which means if this is his building, he's probably employed. Thank you for your employment, angry sir. Isn't that fun? I mean, think about what we just did, right? There's a guy complaining.
I'm worried about the methodology here. I'm worried that it might find somebody on the beach going, hey Mario, get 10 coins, and think they're like a homeless person and not someone who's gainfully employed but on vacation or a break.
He claims ownership over the building, and then we take context clues to tell us what the building might be, and ergo, we've determined that he's the property owner of the radio broadcasting station.
No, right, I
so
get
really
that.
What this is it's a combination of what these people say, what they're doing, what they're wearing, where they're standing, and any other context clues that we can find. Now, let's talk about Delfino Plaza as a whole, right?
Yeah.
Delfino Plaza is the tourist hub of Isle Delfino. It has beautiful streets, quaint canals, blah, 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 and it's from here that any visitor can travel to the various other appealing locations on the island. For the most part, things aren't too complicated economically. You've got 4 people working at the market. You've got some sailors that are presumably employed based on their dress. You've got someone carrying mushrooms to sell. You've got some police officers. All of these people are employed.
Clearly.
And honestly, I'm jealous of them. Sometimes I wish I could just work at a food stand and sell food to people. I think I'd be good at it. Hey, come buy my food. What kind of food is it? It's Caribbean spiced tofu from today's sponsor, Factor.
Yo, Factor!
Gotcha. In a way, I guess in that sense, I kind of am a food vendor because I stand here on your TV screen and sell you this food, right? The chefs that work at Factor are employed. You know what they do
Good
all day?
transition.
They freshly cook meals in big, beautiful industrial kitchens. They put them in little trays and then they mail them to you so you can eat them at your convenience. That's literally what Factor
Yummy!
is. Chefs make food that's reasonably easy to reheat. They send it to you when you need it, and then you quickly and easily cook it in minutes. I'm a real convenience-oriented eater, and Factor is a convenience-oriented service, and they have juices. Now, I'm not pressuring you, but if you can, you should get the juices with your meals. The juices are very good.
I did
It's
like
it
the
was
mango
milked
smoothie.
straight from a Yoshi. I don't think that makes sense. If you're curious and you want to get a week of meals delivered to you, go to factor75.com or click
check
the
it
link
out.
below and use
Check
my
it out.
promotion,
Check it out,
but they
Factor.
will go whole as well. It's gonna be a lot of infographics at the end of this video. Okay. We also have this guy who forces
They're all apple juice, yeah, except for the mango
sunglasses
smoothie
on
one, maybe.
unsuspecting tourists, kind of like those people you'd find outside of Central Park. You know, the people who like come up to you and then force stuff into your hands, and then they pressure you to pay for it. So I think this guy's kind of like that. So he's employed. Now we're
Some guy did that to me in Vegas. It was me, Stans, and the rest of ASU Esports. And it was like right after I think we lost a tournament and I was kind of depressed. And we walked outside and then some guy gave me a CD and I was like, yeah, I'll take your CD, bro. And then he's like, okay, you got to pay for it though. And I was like, wait, what? And so I gave him like my last $5. And then I got in the car and we put the CD in on the way home. And we blasted Bouncing in My Chevy by Najia. Does this song possibly exist? There's only one record of it on the internet, and it's on Last FM. But when I click it, it won't play. 3 listeners. God, I would love to play it, but I have to have Amazon Music Unlimited. How fucked is that? I'm not spending $9.99 a month to listen to this. Dude, just play Bouncing in My Chevy. Anyway, it was actually a heater. The guy never made it big, but it was like, bouncing in my Chevy, bouncing in my Chevy, bouncing in my Chevy. It was a heater, bro. I mean, I swear to God.
Where things get complicated is that there are a lot of people in Delfino Plaza, and honestly in this game as a whole, who just sit around. They don't do anything. They don't work, or they don't seem to work. They look like they never
Lazy
work,
freeloaders.
which really leaves me no choice but to consider all of these additional people unemployed. 22 employed persons and 5 unemployed persons means that Delfino Plaza has an unemployment rate of 22.7%, which is not great, but also it's actually not much worse than the next area we have to survey, Bianco Hills. Bianco Hills is the first proper level in the game. Right when you enter the level, you're greeted by 3 people. One of them is another one of those guys who tries to get you to take sunglasses from him, so we're counting him as employed. Then we've got 2 other people, and these people, they don't really do much. You know, you're the one person who visits me over and over. Well, you never move, do you? My thought was that they might be some sort of like greeter for this area, but if that were the case, they should be like standing at the ready, you know, saying hi to the Mario when he comes in, which they don't do. They're kind of like pacing in circles. Ultimately, I think they're both unemployed. The rest of this level is full of beautiful windmills and a field of coconut trees. There's a family here. There's some people hanging out near the windmills. Obviously, it's hard to say, but I think we can assume that these people are working on or sort of near the windmills.
I think that's
I'm not
safe.
entirely sure what
That's
they're
safe.
milling, honestly, but there are coconut trees here, so maybe it's like a coconut sugar mill. I don't know. Now, I'm sure it's obvious by this point, but compared to Skyrim, Isle Delfino is not exactly an employment-forward community. Basically, everyone in Skyrim immediately tells you their job the second you talk to them.
Name's Nils. I'm the cook up at Candlehearth Hall.
But here, mostly, people don't say anything meaningful at all. This leaves us to rely pretty heavily on context clues, like an archaeologist might when examining an ancient dig site. So despite the fact that this guy doesn't have much to say, I think he's employed. Here's why. I feel like if he was unemployed, why would he be standing in this very specific spot, guarding the bridge wearing a hat? He'd be lazing around somewhere.
What are you
But he's not. He's dancing.
He's dancing
working,
and vibing. He's not
standing in a very
employed.
specific, like, notable spot, so I'm going to go with employed.
That's crazy.
There's another guy standing in front of a cave in Bianco Hills as well, which we're counting as employment. And then there's this guy, who I'm pretty sure is a journalist because he's dressed like a journalist, and he said he came here to see how things were in the wake of some sort of recent disaster.
Yeah, that guy's a journalist,
Feels like
for sure.
journalist behavior. Altogether, Bianco Hills has a local population of 13, with 8 employed persons, 2 unemployed people, and 3 people not applicable, giving this area an unemployment rate of 20%. It's
pretty high.
Looking good so far, but we have a long
pretty
way to go.
high.
The bustling shipping port of Rico Harbor is our next stop, and you would think that a shipping port would be a real bastion of employment.
100%.
And it's not. But in this case, it's actually slightly worse off than Bianco Hills. Sure, you've got some people working the port, right? There's a ship captain. He's got his crew. There are people scrubbing the ships.
Yeah, that's
There's a guy
jobs.
renting out squids. But then you've also got this guy who's treating this active port like a hotel pool, unemployed. And you've got these two who just stand at the start of the level and gossip. Unemployed behavior for sure. In total, Rico Harbor has 13 people in it, and only 2 of those people are actually physically on a boat doing work. Every other sailor is standing around kind of observing, and if you pay close attention, you might see why. A lot of this port is automated, which of course is very efficient, but I almost wonder if that's why we're seeing a slightly higher rate of unemployment here than we might expect. Maybe these 2 people are actually recently laid off dock workers.
Former dock
Hopefully
workers.
They had a strong union and got themselves a generous severance package. In total, Rico Harbor has a population.
Well, as I learned from the recent dock worker strike, if people don't support that, they'll be so mad that if the port doesn't get automated as fast as possible, they'll actually be furious if the union asks for any type of concessions.
1 of which is a child, and 3 people unemployed, giving it an unemployment rate of 25%. So far, things aren't looking super good for Isle Delfino. When your literal port has a 25% unemployment rate, well, that doesn't bode well. That being said, we still haven't gotten to the main industry for this island, which is, of course...
Unemployment rate tracks people that are actively looking, though. What if some of these people are independently wealthy? What if it's like rich kids or trust fund babies or somebody who struck it big by doing a startup that, sold weed delivery to the door in Delfino Plaza and they made a bunch of money and then retired?
Tourism. Welcome to Gelato Beach, a beachfront resort just a short swim away from
what
the
if they're
lovely
crypto
Piana
millionaires?
amusement park. Gelato Beach is not in great shape. Nobody wants to swim because the waters are dangerous. Nobody is working at the tiki bar. There honestly just aren't that many people here overall. It feels like this is basically meant to be the Isle Delfino equivalent of the Polynesian resort at Disney World, but for the most part, it's pretty underutilized. Currently, the only people actually visiting the resort are these 4 people, and none of them seem to be having any fun at all, except this lady who's having fun bullying her partner. I told you what a bad swimmer this guy was, right? Why are you here's a pro tip for you guys. If any of you are in a relationship, don't ever put down your partner in front of an Italian man.
Yeah, a strange plumber. It's not good. He doesn't even know you. There's no comfort there.
One of them is the sunglasses con artist. One of them is the bouncer at the tiki bar or something like that. 2 of them are just sitting around unemployed, and one of them is an old retired guy. If you're paying attention, you've already put together that means Gelato Beach has an unemployment rate of 50%. Yikes. I want to know exactly how this island resort ended up on the vacation itinerary of the most powerful woman in the world, given that so far it hasn't really offered anything in the way of amenities or sightseeing. Maybe the princess is just a really big fan of theme parks. Welcome to Piana Park, aka Employment City. Interestingly, Piana Park is entirely staffed by Noki, which are a species or a race. I guess it's a race. These are people who look like little seashells. The park is vibrant, it's bright, it's exciting. Families of Piantas, the other race on the island, are visiting the park. Fathers are bonding with their children. It's a pretty big juxtaposition from Gelato Beach. And the best part is, this is not a joke, 100% of the people that can work here are working here. There are 15 people residing in the area. 2 of them are children, and the other 13 are all doing various things around the park, from maintenance to greeting to...
Isn't that kind of a bad thing, though? Do you know what I'm saying? If the only people at the park are its employees, and isn't the park struggling financially, they can't get guests in. And there's very few children, so there's definitely a demographic problem with this island. It's like late stage Japan. I'm sensing a lot of problems coming up in the future for this economy.
Performing to running the rides. This is more in line with what we were expecting, I think, that these high employment areas would counterbalance the more residential or leisure-focused areas. Hopefully that trend continues as we go through the game, and it might, because the next place we're visiting is a hotel. This is Serena Beach. And guess what? This place also has 100% employment. Throw a pizza party. The vast majority of people here are visiting tourists from other parts of the island. You can tell because when you play the Shadow Mario level, the hotel guests have all been evacuated onto the beach, and those evacuees outnumber the hotel staff 9-6. I lied. It's actually 22-7. I forgot to count the casino initially. They also complain a lot. Evacuate everyone. Oh, they evacuated everyone. This is very convenient for me. Then we got these two people yelling at this poor worker. So you got two more tourists. Hello. You remember to stay out of the ladies' room. Okay, I will. I will not commit any sex crimes while I am at the hotel. Thanks for the reminder. They aren't happy being stuck outside, I guess, which I guess is fine, but also not fine. Chill. Underneath the hotel is a dingy casino, which is pretty funny to me. Did you know that there is only one staff member down here at the casino? Everyone else is just a patron eagerly gambling the night away. It's a popular spot though, and people seem to be having a great time, so I guess whatever. Hotel Delfino and Piana Park are by far the two most economically successful regions on the island, which is...
I mean, I would easily invest in the hotel if I was an investor, because the hotel has an incredible employee to guest ratio. They're capable of getting huge returns to the casino with only a single employee. And, you know, the casinos in general are a great business, easy money. And they're just one more staffed. It just feels like a massive win.
Kind of weird to me. I mean, we'll get into it more later, but I kind of thought that this was supposed to be like Venice or Hawaii, like a rich cultural history, beautiful nature places. But it turns out it might actually be more like Florida with dopamine-oriented man-made entertainment attractions. And don't get me wrong, I like Florida, but its reputation is somewhat less wholesome and beautiful than what I thought Isle Delfino was going for. We only have 2 more levels to cover. First up, Noki Bay. This one's easy. There really aren't any people here. I think it's maybe 5 in total. There's a family of Noki, including an old guy, 2 younger people, and a baby. And then there's a raccoon that's overcharging for boat rentals. You know, the raccoons in this game are all very nice, but it's funny to me how every one of them is like a ruthless small business owner. I'm not sure if that's just like a reflection of a perceived earthly social phenomenon with regards to immigrant communities and small businesses, or if there's some like Japanese joke there about tanukis being good with money that I don't understand. But I find it very amusing. Every person in Noki Bay, aside from the baby child, is working in some capacity.
What does Nintendo say?
Seems to be doing like light kind of almost tour guide work and also like caretaking the land, which makes this place feel sort of like a national park or like an archaeological site maybe. But the important thing for us is that everyone in Noki Bay, just like the last 2 places, is employed. From Noki Bay, we make our way to the last official level of the game, Pianta Village. I wish I could tell you that Pianta Village also has a 100% employment rate like the last few places we've looked, but it's kind of the opposite. Sort of. Pianta Village really represents what's so complicated about enumerating this whole game, which is that the Piantas they really just love sitting around doing nothing. There are a total of 24 people in this village, and aside from children and the elderly, 10 of those people don't have any discernible role in the village other than sitting around enjoying life, which is, of course, not a job. You're not supposed to enjoy life. You're supposed to work.
Right.
You're miserable. There are some people with obvious jobs here, like the mayor, the mayor's wife. There's a pool cleaner and some entertainers. But altogether, that only leaves 9 people formally employed here, which is less than the 10 people who aren't employed, which means, guess what? Pianta Village has the highest unemployment rate of any location on the island at 53%.
That's pretty bad.
What? Just wild. You would think that no society could function if half of the able-bodied people in it didn't work, and yet it does seem to be functioning.
Maybe they have UBI.
Possible? Before we actually try to figure out how that's possible and whether or not Isle Delfino is in a good place economically, there are a couple of other non-level locations we have to quickly add into our calculus. Firstly, there's a cutscene where Mario gets sent to court, and that cutscene has 1 judge and 1 lawyer, both of whom are...
I think one of the biggest problems, though, with this society is rampant coin crime. Italian plumbers are often coming in and stealing every single coin that's not nailed down and then running away with literally 0 consequences. And I hate to be like but I think we need to build a wall between Delfino Plaza and Italy. And I think we need to deport. When Italians send their plumbers, they're not sending their best, is all I'm saying. He's a criminal. He's a rampant criminal. He causes damage, and he steals all of the coins. And Italy needs to pay for it. Make Bowser pay for it.
unemployed. Just before that, when you first arrive on Isle Delfino, there are also 4 employed people working at the airport. Also at the airport are 2 tourists who seem to be waiting to leave Isle Delfino to go on vacation, which I think is kind of fun. I don't know where they're going. I like to think they're actually headed to Sochi in Russia, because canonically, Piantas have been to Russia. I don't know if you remember that from the background of Mario and Sonic at the 2014 Sochi Olympic Games. Anyway, that adds 6 more people into the unemployment pool, which makes a total of...
How could you print that many papers?
You know, I'm going to need to get a calculator and add all this data up. So give me just a second. In fact, why don't I'm going to take all this information we've gathered and just put together a full report on Isle Delfino, and I'll come right back and I'm going to present that information to you.
You can just cut to
Hold
that.
on one sec. I'll be right back.
You can just...
Okay, hello, folks. Welcome to the... Excuse me, hello. Today we're going to be talking about the economic situation on Isle Delfino. So strap in, make sure your phones are on silent, obviously, for this, because we have a lot to get through, and I don't want to be interrupted.
Okay.
Total surface payroll employment on Isle Delfino is at 76 persons, and unemployment is at 22.5%. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. Isle Delfino is a tropical island known for its amenable climate, laid-back culture, and wide variety of appealing destinations for tourism. The island as a whole has a population of roughly 150, the majority of whom are a race known as the Piantas. There are also Nokis, a smaller bipedal shelled creature that they reside in various communities on the island, and raccoons, furry business-minded people that make up the smallest portion of the demography. The main...
You know, it's kind of fucked up to see only one raccoon in your entire life and assume they're all business-minded. Do you know what I'm saying? If I met like one black person and they took their traits and said they applied to all, it just feels a little prejudice. It feels a little prejudice. But he saw 2? Yeah, but they're in the same family. Do you understand?
Industry on Isle Delfino, is tourism, and nearly every area on the island
N equals 2, but it's not enough. It's not enough.
Based on our observations, the local population seems content with the availability of resources in their community, and the Bureau didn't witness any abject poverty during our survey. That being said, the calculated unemployment rate is 22.5%, which is very high. One of the key takeaways from our survey is that the amusement park, Piana Park, is far and away the main attraction for anyone coming into the area. And the nearby hotel, Hotel Delfino, is the primary place that visitors stay when they're on the island. Other attractions, like the resort at Gelato Beach, are all but ignored, with only a few adventurous tourists, abandoned entertainment complexes, and severely understaffed restaurants. Beautiful nature preserves like Noki Bay are also entirely unvisited, forcing local business owners to charge exorbitant fees just to stay afloat. In terms of population distribution, the most populous areas are, unsurprisingly, Pianta Village and Delfino Plaza. The least populous area is Noki Bay. A ranked list is displayed on your screen of each area and its population count, so feel free to pause and peruse that information
we don't
as
need
necessary.
to.
It should be noted that given the size of this survey, some error is expected in our data. Each location on the island is constantly changing, and from one day to the next, our enumerator may not have access to every portion of each.
They're the same every time.
While the Bureau always does everything we can to ensure that the right conclusions are drawn from the data gathered, some inconsequential oversights may have occurred. The Bureau always strives for the highest level of accuracy.
They should vote in Bowser to fix the inflation.
One of the major face value concerns for the economy on Isle Delfino is how the unemployment is divided up demographically. Of the 21 people unemployed on the island,
that's a good idea.
100% of them are Piantas.
That's a good idea.
There isn't a single Noki or a single raccoon that's unemployed. We refer to this as a face value concern because if we saw something similar on Earth, we would generally consider it a sort of red alert situation. But in the context of Isle Delfino, there doesn't seem to be much discontent among the residents.
No, everyone seems pretty happy.
Everyone on the island seems perfectly happy to be working if they're working, and perfectly happy to be unemployed if they're unemployed, which implies that, at least in large part, their basic needs are being met regardless of their employment status. The most likely explanation for this arrangement is that the island's foray into modern entertainment tourism has been so lucrative and the entrepreneurial involvement from residents so extensive that at any given time a large portion of the population can afford to maintain a state of semi-permanent vacation. It may seem counterintuitive to us here on Earth, but there's no technical reason why, within a single community, the effort required to generate enough revenue
it just depends on where
couldn't be less than the labor available from that same population.
Split, you know?
And as long as everyone agrees to use that surplus of revenue to sustain the community as a whole,
do they receive wages, or is there a dole?
Who just don't work and don't need to work without causing acute stress on the system as a whole. However, systems like this aren't common, and and there are two reasons why they tend not to sustain over long periods of time. Firstly, it only takes a handful of selfish actors to unravel the arrangement. It only takes a handful of selfish actors to unravel the entire arrangement fairly quickly. As soon as any participant in the system starts feeling as though their share of the resources should be commensurate with their perceived level of participation in the generation of those resources, they can quickly form a coalition with the other high-effort participants.
He really wants to paint the raccoons as greedy.
Assuaging this concern is difficult because you either have to convince the population that they don't deserve more resources just because they believe they're doing more work, or you have to somehow ensure that everyone is participating more or less equally in the labor, which disincentivizes or outright forbids anyone from overperforming and can ultimately cause the apparatus that's generating the resources, in this case a stunning modern entertainment complex featuring amusement parks, hotels, and casinos, to deteriorate.
Have you met a raccoon that wasn't? You know, people say Tom Nook is greedy, but really, Tom Nook gives you like an incredible interest-free loan. for no real reason. You have no credit history nor experience. And he gives you a massive interest-free loan and lets you pay it back whenever you want. Like what exactly has Tom Nook done that's wrong? Okay, bootlicker, you took his money. You took Tom Nook's money and built your life off of it. Of course you're a Nook sympathizer. Okay, a lot of people who went hat in hand to Tom Nook when times were bad and now are sitting pretty with their nice island thinking Tom Nook's a fucking criminal. That's crazy. Tom Nook's a hero, but as far as I'm saying, if I had his money, if I had his bells, I wouldn't give your broke ass a fucking penny. I tip Tom Nook 20%, as you should.
Quality and lose the very patrons that are generating the revenue to care for the island.
Tom Nook stole my wife? Look, he can't apologize for being a Rizzler. Tom Nook's Riz is out of control. The dude's fucking financially stable, fucking great attitude, helps the poor, okay? If your wife's attracted to that, it's not, you got to be better. That's not even her fault. He's
Island's residents. This is a dense report, you guys. My God. The other major risk here is that when you create an island paradise that allows 30...
Nintendo actually released a statement about Tom Nook's lending practices. Wait, I have to see this. Nintendo says Animal Crossing fans have got Tom Nook all wrong. He's a good guy, really. In an interview with IGN, New Horizons director Aya Kyogoku told fans that Tom Nook actually uses all the money he collects from player debt to give back to the community. Interesting. He tirelessly works 24 hours making sure all the residents of the island are happy and having a good life. He invests toward resident services. It's not a propaganda puff piece. You guys just want to hate Tom Nook, but jealousy perhaps. He gives you a large loan regardless of your credit score and never pesters you about paying it back. You can pay it back at your own leisure or not at all, really. Yeah, facts, dude. Fucking facts. It's an incredible deal. It's a fucking fantastic deal. You can literally never pay him back and all he'll do is ask nicely. I'm not bootlicker, okay?
30% of the population to relax all the time, outsiders are going to want to be part of that island paradise. As more people move to Isle Delfino to enjoy the fruits of their economic system, the burden on the island's resources will grow, and eventually there will no longer be a gap between the resources available and the labor required to generate those resources, meaning people won't be able to sit around vacationing anymore. One way to control this is by having strict immigration policies, which based on the demographic makeup of the island might already be in place here, but a heavy-handed and top-down approach to immigration control also tends
Holy
to
shit,
backfire.
they're going to build the wall around Delfino.
And we hope that the government of Isle Delfino can mitigate the risks associated elegantly and effectively, because the goal of allowing...
Insane that the economy, demographic problems, and immigration problems of Japan are reflected in this Japanese game. Everything he said about Delfino Plaza applies 100% to Japan.
your citizens to labor as little as possible, thus allowing them to enjoy the beautiful fruits of human existence, is a noble one, and one that we at the Bureau hope one day will be achieved in full. Whether it will be achieved by the colorful cast of Super Mario Sunshine remains to be seen. And that brings us to the end of our report. That is the economic situation in Isle Delfino. Thank you very much for your time. I hope all of you have an excellent, beautiful day. Follow me on Instagram.
That was a funny video. I will be honest with you. It was a funny idea executed well.